Yo, what's going on, guys? It's your boy. Welcome back to another video. Today we're going to be watching another rom-com for my 10 days of rom-coms that I'm doing, my 100 films in 100 days series. Today we're going to be watching one of the classics, When Harry Met Sally. This is one of the oldest rom-coms I could find when I was looking up like iconic rom-coms. This is one of the older ones, and I am insanely excited about it. I know I want to say literally nothing about this, except for I want to say there is one line that I know does not age well, where one of the characters says to the other character something along the lines of like, guys and girls can't be friends because the sex thing is always going to get in the way. So we'll see how bad that line and other parts of this movie don't age as well, but I'm very excited about this. Let's dive into it, shall we?
Dun, 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 dun. 100 films in 100 days.
Okay, I'm not gonna lie, I really enjoyed that. I thought that was really good. One of the first main takeaways I am gonna go ahead and say about this movie, I feel like growing up, I always thought that the whole concept of like a slow burn romance was something that could only really exist in TV shows, and I've now seen multiple movies in the last 2 months that have a slow burn romance in it that is portrayed really well and does a really good job helping us fully understand how long these characters have been yearning for one another, and I think that it is really interesting. I like the fact that this movie starts off with them kind of having like a one-day kind of interaction where they're like not really liking each other at all, but they meet each other, and it kind of sets the groundwork for in the future whenever they do run into each other again, they kind of already have this preconceived notion of like, oh, this guy's kind of a dick, or oh my god, this girl's like a control freak, and all these different things, and it kind of slowly builds into the fact that like when they first met, they were not in the same level when it comes to like their emotional intelligence, their actual intelligence, how responsible they are, how they feel about how love as a construct works. And I do really like the fact that throughout this film, both characters seem to grow a lot individually and together. And I think that that's really cool because as far as romance movies go, I feel like there's a lot of times where like the big thing is just how can they complement each other? How can they grow together? And I think that this movie does a good job because they do a 5-year time jump and then a 5-year time jump. Both of these characters have a lot of time to themselves to create different relationships with, you know, this friend who helps, you know, Harry become a better version of himself, and the guy who Harry kind of spends a lot of his time with who kind of is also having the same mindset that Harry has at the beginning of the movie, where he's just like, yeah, women and dudes can't be friends because of sex, which I will say that line still does not age well. But I do like the fact that that line comes really early in the movie when he's supposed to be like 18 years old, so it does kind of make a little bit more sense why a younger man would think, oh yeah, women and girls and guys can't be friends because they're always going to want to have sex with each other, whatever. That's something that a young man who like has gone through puberty in the last 5 years would still think. So that makes sense. I do think that that line really concerned me a lot going into this film, but after watching the movie, you realize that like, yeah, when he first is meeting Sally, he's coming off very brash and he's being very like over the top and he's being very misogynistic, and at first I was like, damn, this guy's kind of an asshole, and then you kind of realize that that's part of the point, is that he needs to learn to not be misogynistic throughout this film, and I really think that that's great. I think that overall Harry as a character does not seem like somebody I would want to spend time with or hang out with, but the more you watch this film, the more you kind of become more endeared to him, and the more he goes through different heartbreaks and different depressing things throughout his life, he kind of learns how to be a more emotionally available person, and I like that. I thought that was really good. So I really enjoy the fact that this movie kind of starts off with like an unlikely friendship, and then that unlikely friendship turned them being literally best friends, and then both kind of like realizing that they like each other more than they thought they did, and the way that they both have this kind of mutual realization around the same time, but they're both still trying to see other people and trying to figure out their dating goals and what they want to do with, you know, getting married, because it's like a time ticking clock or whatever. You have to get married before a certain age, which is still a really wild like notion that I still feel like society still is like putting that on people, like you guys got to get married super early. But I will say one thing that I also like about this film, just a little small detail, I don't think they get together until like 32, 34, something like that. Somewhere in that age range, they get together in their early 30s. And I like that. I think that a lot of rom-coms kind of tend to stick with, you know, these people meeting in high school or whatever, and then them falling in love and becoming high school sweethearts and staying together forever. Or something like college age, where they're like their early 20s, they fall in love, they stay together for the rest of their lives. I do like the fact that this rom-com, they don't get together until their 30s, because it makes me feel like I have hope. I'm not gonna lie, watching 10 rom-coms in back-to-back days is probably not great for my mental health right now. I'm like, damn, I am lonely. This is not fun. But that being said, it is very interesting watching these characters who kind of are feeling the same thing. Like Harry, throughout this movie, he has a sequence where he kind of came to the realization that like his wife never really loved him, and when they go through their divorce, he gets really depressed and he kind of is constantly feeling lonely. And you can relate to that. I feel like a lot of people can probably relate to that. And so I'm hoping one day I meet my Sally. That'd be kind of sick. These episodes are going to be very depressing, aren't they? Okay, so I need to stop watching rom-coms. But also, though, if we are going to talk about rom-coms, there are some great comedic bits in here. I do feel like there's a sense of comedy that existed back in this day and age that doesn't exist anymore, with just like a lot of like sarcasm humor, a lot of dry humor, which I really like. One of my favorite bits is there's a lot of scenes of Harry and his guy best friend doing a bunch of really random things. I love the fact that they're having a really emotional heart-to-heart sequence while they're watching a Giants game. My wife just divorced me. Gotta do the wave! They're like, we gotta do this right now because we're at a game. We can't possibly be just having this heart-to-heart and not participate in the wave. I thought that was hilarious. That was just like a small little detail that's so funny because he's just like, you know, it's really tough because like one of the movers kind of explained to me that she's moving in with a guy. So, you know, that's really sad. The girl, the love of my life, she's just leaving me. And I just, you know, I can't imagine how it must feel because, like, I thought that she really loved me. But in reality, she's been ready to have this divorce for, like, so long. And it's like, I don't know why. That killed me. That took me out. That was so funny. Another comedic bit between Harry and his guy best friend. They're at a batting cage and, you know, Harry's talking about like, this is really good for me that I have this relationship with Sally. We're best friends. This is the first time I've ever hung out with a woman for this long and it's not been about sex. And it's really nice because like for him, this is a very eye-opening thing. Oh my God, women are people. He's a 30-year-old man. He's just making that discovery. That's fucking wild. But, you know, he's having this realization that, like, oh my God, I can have a relationship with a girl and it does not have to be about sex. That's awesome. That's cool. Good for you. You're figuring out. And he's basically just talking about how, like, I'm maturing. I'm growing up. I'm being so mature right now. And then a kid is like, hey, let me get the next at the batting cage. I'm supposed to be going up next. And then he yells at the child. And then he turns back to his friend. And he's like, what were we talking about? And the friend's just like, you're talking about how you're growing up. That's hilarious. That was fucking good. So there's a lot of great little comedic bits throughout this entire film. I think that it's absolutely fantastic. And there's just like so many elements to this film that are like very subtle jokes. I feel like this is the kind of movie where you can probably watch it multiple times and catch different jokes each time because a lot of it is like people in the background reacting to certain things a certain way. The sequence where Meg Ryan, Sally, sorry, I accidentally said the actress's name. But what's it called? The scene where she's faking an orgasm in the restaurant is like, that's, I don't like secondhand embarrassment, but that is hilarious as fuck. That is so funny to me because, like, Harry is so confident that, like, girls can't do that. Girls can't do that at all. And she's like, let me just fuck with him right now. Let me just do it right now. And it's so funny. I love all the judgmental looks from all the people. And then there's that one old lady who's just kind of like, damn, I want whatever she's having. And it's so funny. But yeah, so overall, I think the comedy is great. I think the romance is great. I love the slow burn aspect of it. I think that for the most part, this movie is paced incredibly well. Something that I like about this movie, it takes place 5 years, then 5 years, then a couple of months, then a couple of months, then a couple of months. And everything about the pacing makes sense, feels accurate. And it's not like other movies when they would try to do something similar to this, you kind of like feel like, did I just miss something? Did I just miss a big chunk of the movie? What time is it? How long has passed since these certain events? But they do such a good job of like keeping us in the loop of like what's going on and constantly having things where it's just like, oh, this is their wedding. You know, they've been dating for 7 months now. And oh, this thing has happened for 3 months now. And oh, this thing. And I really liked it because it's very subtle in the dialogue. And this is a film that is very dialogue heavy. So throughout the entire film, it's very easy to keep up with the fact that like, okay, well now this much amount of time has passed. I really liked that. I thought that was great. So overall, the pacing, the editing, a lot of stuff that I really like. One thing that does throw me off, all the cuts in between different like time jumps whenever they're just having like a random couple being like, this is how me and then my partner met, and this is how me and my partner met. I don't think I liked that very much. I feel like you could have taken that out of the movie and it probably still would have worked just as well. And I think one of my main things about it is the runtime for this movie is already really short. And part of me is like, is the only reason those cuts are in this so that this is like theatrical length movie, because without it, I feel like it'd potentially be like 70 minutes long, and I would still love it. I am a big supporter of movies do not need to be 3 hours long. Movies do not need to be 2 hours long. If you have a good condensed story and it happens to only be like an hour and 7 minutes, that's okay. Like, that's totally fine. That's totally dandy. But yeah, so overall, I really like this movie. If I had to give this movie a rating on a scale of 1 to 100, I'm giving it a solid 97. This movie is a fantastic movie, and I can understand why it's a classic and why so many people love it. I think it's really good. And if I had to say if the movie is overrated, underrated, in between, I would say it's actually still underrated, because some people will consider this one of the greatest rom-coms of all time, but I also feel like it's not talked about that often. Every once in a while when I have conversations about rom-coms, you kind of hear the same, like, 10 Things I Hate About You, which I love. That's a great movie. I will definitely love to talk about it. I hear about the movies Set It Up, one of my favorites that's came out in the last, 10, 15 years. And you'll hear about a bunch of movies like that. And I feel like When Harry Met Sally is just like one that people like universally are like, well, yeah, that's, one of the first ones. But I feel like it does not come up that much. But yeah, that being said, I was a big fan of this movie. I really liked it. And yeah, so that was it for this video, guys. Thank you guys so much for coming by and checking it out. Tomorrow, we're going to be checking out a newer rom-com that released on Hulu, I believe. It's a Searchlight film. So very excited for that. Hopefully you guys stick around. And if not, I appreciate you guys for watching. So peace out. Bow, bow, bow.